त्वमादिदेवः पुरुषा पुराणः त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परम निधानम वेत्तासि वेद्यम च परम च धाम त्वया ततं विश्वमनंत रूप। वायु यमः अग्निवरुणः शशांकः प्रजापतिस्त्वं प्रपितामहस्य नमो नमस्तेस्तु सहस्रकृत्वा पुनश्च भूयोऽपि नमो नमस्ते। You are primeval God and the primordial spirit. You are the ultimate shelter of the universe. You are knower, the knowable and supreme abode. The universe is fully pervaded by you, being of infinite forms. You are the God of wind, God of death, God of fire and water, the moon, God and great grandfathers of beings. We salute to you thousands and thousands and again and again. In last session, I am describing the kinds of ego or arrogance, and there are some types of kinds of ego and arrogance have been described, and now here are some others which I am presenting in this session. Say next, demon worship ego. The tantric practice in the present and law in also in the past, worship of ghosts, etc., has been very important. People try to fulfill their desires by tantric means. Presently, bhoot, pretadi is being worshipped. India in past time, every village, there are stories of the presence and manifestation of these latent powers on people trees. In other villages, there are probably be villages in India where stories about ghosts and in relation to men in the past are not prevalent. When a tantric person worships the ghost, he does more for the benefit of others. There are no such passages for the welfare of society. The worship of bhoot pretadi is considered to be tamasi worship in the scriptures and has also been prohibited. To be tamasi worship in scriptures and has also been prohibited. The tantric worship, the ghost is immersed in ego because of the being of tamasi, that we have power. I can do that. People of tamasi nature go to the tantrics to get the rituals of tantrics worship done. So they are also covered with ego. In this way, the organizer and the tantrics performing rituals and also covered by the ego worshipping ghost. The type of cultivation is a sacrilege for the harm of others. This is one type of ego, tantric worship of demon or bhoot pretadi. Next, the arrogance of perfection. In the scriptures, description of siddhis, etc., like Alima, Mahima, Lakma, Prapti, or Prakatya, or Ishitto, Vasishto, etc., comes additionally ending hunger and thirst in the body, looking the things far away, taking a person for way, change your body according to wish, in turning the body of others, controlling your death, to do it, to see the sports of gods of the world beyond, to have the power of command nature. The scriptures describe the types of these above mentioned siddhis. In such perfect man, there is emptiness of ego, which remains till attainment of the accomplishment or protection, since attainment of siddhi is done only for the siddhi sadhana, and complete destruction of ego in the siddha. But those who are not perfected men commit hypocrisy to attain siddhi. The hypocritical hypocrisy is called the ego of siddhi. This type of arrogance occurs exclusively is imperfect man. Then this is a ego, one type of ego of perfection, that we have secured some siddhis. Next, the arrogance of astrology. In Upanishad Vidya, in the Upanishad, Vidya is divided, knowledge is divided into two parts. Those are called Paravidya and Aparavidya, superior knowledge and inferior knowledge. There are 10 parts of Aparavidya: Rik, Sam, Yaju, Atharva, education; Kalp, grammar, Vyakaran; Nirukta, Chand, and Jyotish, says. The definition of astrology states that the position and the motion of planets and the constellation and their relationship is called astrology, where to the position of planets and constellations in the Piacentra called astrology, and where is their motion. This fact is studied. The astrological scholars of our country have made a very surprising discovery in the field of astrology. As the sun's rays fall on the equator, this phenomenon is called equinox. This event occurs after 25,827 years. One time this incident occurs. This information was first presented by Vedas of Indian astrology. Similarly, other types of information have been first presented by Indian astrology. The description of study Samavastar and the division of them into three parts. The transmission of 6 seasons, and each seasons of the sun: Capricorn, Aquarius, pesos, arrears, etc. Description of these type of time, Ashwani, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, the description of 27 nakshatra, etc., arise, terrors, Gemini, etc. 12 zodiac signs have been described in the detail in astrology. Today, people go to astrology as the science that tells man's future. Astrology scholars present themselves as the future speakers. The conscience of those who have knowledge of astrology comes in their conscience, which is called astrologer. I am a future speaker, this pride of astrological. So this is the arrogance of astrology. Arrogance of presentation. Mansa vacha karmana, perform karma in three ways. We may have seen some people in the particular who have special knowledge in the fields of art, literature, law, politics, education, etc. An actor captivates people with his speech, humor, melodious, serious, adorable, etc. Pujaniya attracts people with the whys. How does a man comedian make a mockery of the speech of prominent person to laugh similarly? How much the people get attracted to the melodious songs? You must have seen the copy every day. You should imagine yourself about other arts. Apart from this, you must have listened in the sharpness of the speakers of spiritual field. They captivate the audience with their interesting style stories, hymns, and musical performance. The poetry of poet also enchanced the audience on the basis of the state of concept of the poet's mind. The utterance is famous that where Ravi reached cannot the poet reach there. Where the sun cannot reach, the poet can reach there. There are more than one talent in the field of literature. Writers have run their writing on many subjects, first like function, story, novel, etc. This concept of his mind can be easily estimated by reading the works of many eminent writers. How do the learned scholars of politics present facts on the political subjects in parliament and legislative assemblies? An ordinary person cannot decide what is right, what is wrong. The public gets confused by listening to the arguments of various political parties. A voice erupts in various forms. Sometimes a mind and intellect, sometimes remain isolated, and sometimes in the form of a form. It manifests itself in the form of speech. There are characteristics of the senses, excellences, who have authority in various fields. fall prey to oral ego due to their knowledge. It is impossible to do an excellent performance and not to be influenced by a verbal ego. This is called predominance of ego. And this is the ego of presentation. Next, arrogance of devotion. When a seeker does devotion to the God, then at the lower level he becomes ego of devotion is God. He is a devotee of God and he knows the situation lasts until the speaker is oriented towards excellent cultivation. An artist seeker sometimes reveals his devotion to God, but a seeker of high order does not ego devotion to God. He loves God and God loves him too also. He belongs to God and the God belongs to him. He reveals his affection for God in God and not to be word. This fact keeps man from the ego of devotion. Some of the ages are described in the above manner. There are some discussion. Apart from this ego is definitely there. And there are many types of it. This is the diversity and vigor of ego. The studious speakers consider like the types of egoism and tries to refire the ego of being aware of them. Next kind of ego is arrogance of hubris and hypocrisy. Arrogance and hypocrisy are also sympathetic beings of ego. The real state of human beings, whether it is about wealth, prestige, opulence, etc., or whether it is in the context of devotion to knowledge, presenting more than the actual position is called dambh and conduct to called dambhacharan. Just like when we pretend to be more than the wealth we have, then we take pride, property, prestige, opulence to more presence than what we have in the post of we have. It is a conceivable and present more than the rights we have got. The same is clear about knowledge, devotion, and accomplishment, etc. It is the confusing to present more knowledge than we have devotion. It is in some way a perform of ego or co-religion with its ego. Everyone knows how much property he has, how much money. Everyone knows. And the quantity of property and quantity of money and wealth. How much reputation is there? How much opulence is there? How much knowledge? In the excess of these things, there is a difference in behavior. In the practical of human beings, he reveals that we are unique. We have more than wealth, property, opulence, prestige, beauty, knowledge, and more. He has knowledge of this fact. A normal person understands the position, but presenting more than that is called darf. For example, if special people are kept in normal place like normal people, then the expression of it will be immediately appear that we are special people and no special care was taken of us. Similarly, if knowledgeable person do not get any special knowledge, then there are duplicity also appears. The The scrap that appears in erupted, thus dumb and derp are also kind of ego or arrogance. So I have defined and described sometimes some kinds of ego or arrogance, and we should know